This is Casey Ellert with Bass Brawl Outdoors, and today I'm in my Lund 2075 Pro V Bass. It's a 20-foot 10-inch boat. It's brand new on the market this season, and I'm installing my 15-inch Solix units on it. I have a Bass Boat Technologies dash plate in here, and then the Humminbird bracket mounts to that, and my Solix sits nice and perfect right in front of me. My view is right over the top of it. It's totally fine for viewing boats and other structure out on the lake. Nice crisp image right in front of my eyes. Everything's at a touch. With this big unit, there's no need to have two units side by side. I can split the screen into 4 different sections, 3 different sections, whatever I want to show on it. It's all bright right in front of me. When I'm holding the steering wheel, I can use my fingers and reach out and touch the screen. You can also use the joystick over here to maneuver. There's grips on the back, so if you're driving and you're trying to touch and do stuff and change settings, your hands will grab that and you can still push the buttons and maneuver around the screen. Starting on the home page, you have a bunch of favorite screen setups on there, and you can use your fingers to swipe through them, or you can use the joystick to pick which one you want. Once you pick it, you can either touch it, or you can go back and just push down on the joystick. When your unit comes, it has a bunch of presets. Most of those are pretty good info and laid out how you want it, but I always like to tweak those a little bit. So on your home page, if you click your views button, this is where you can change everything. So what I want to do is go to new view, and then it'll load up a bunch of templates. If you want one big screen of info, 2 screens, split top to bottom, side to side, 3 screens up to 4 screens. So just for an example here, we'll do one where the left column is full size and then the right side is split into 2. So we'll just touch that. It'll highlight the area where it wants you to select which data you want on there. So to start with, I'm just going to pick my mapping data. And then it moves over to the top right. On that one, I want my down imaging, and then below that, let's put our side imaging. If that's how we want it set, we can save it. You can name it. It's already checked to have it on your favorite view. That'll show up on your home page when you're scrolling through those preset views. So we'll just hit save. Okay, and if you look here, this is the view we just saved. I'm going to go in there and make one more. Let's make one with 4. Top left will be mapping. Top right will be side imaging. Bottom right, we'll go sonar. And bottom left, we'll do down imaging. I'm going to save that again. And here you can see there's a star on it for my favorites, and it's setting here. Now there's already some other ones made here that are not favorites. So for example, this down imaging, side imaging, if we just touch it, bring it up, it goes right to the screen. Okay, right now all my views are laid out here. You'll notice some have the yellow star. Those are on my favorites list. The ones without it don't show up. If you don't use them very often, I would suggest just taking the star off those so they don't show up there and take longer to go through your good screens. But let's say you want to go back in here and grab one that's not a favorite. All you do is just tap where the star is. When it lights up yellow, it's going to be on that home list. Okay, I'm back on my home screen, and we'll start at the bottom left, navigation data. If you tap that, that'll bring up all your waypoints and tracks and routes that you have on here. Right now it's showing mine is set up with 4,500 waypoints, no routes, and 30 tracks. You can see the color-coded waypoints. You can go in here and edit things. You can change colors of your tracks. You can do all sorts of stuff on this screen. If we go back to the home button, the next one over is GPS. If we click the GPS button, that screen will load and all of your different GPS satellites are showing on here. You can check the different signal strength. The next one over is your trip log. That can keep track of your average speed, the distance you went. It can have a timer set up for it. Basically, it's just logging your trip. The next one over is just a separate timer. That has an alarm clock you can set if you need to leave by a certain time on tournament day, or if you're just out fun fishing, you need to take off, you can set that. There's a countdown timer and there's a stopwatch. The next one over is Bluetooth. Here you can set up to connect your phone to this. You can get it so your text messages show up on the screen. It's handy if you have your phone stuck in your, just say your storage, a tackle bag, your glove box. You don't have it by you. At least you don't miss important text messages. They'll just show up on your screen. You can see those. The next one over is images. This will show you all the images that are saved to the internal drive on your Solix unit, but also you can switch down if you have a card put in here and select the card and see the images on that, or you can just say show all, and that's grabbing from your card or the unit. If you want to take all the pictures that you saved off the unit onto your card, you need to go to internal, move over to one of the pictures, hit the menu button, and if you have a card set up in there, it'll say copy all. That'll take all of the images that are saved on your internal hard drive and copy them to the card that you select that's either in the first slot or the second slot. The next one over is recordings. This is where on a Solix you can actually hit record sonar and choose which devices you want recording. Right now this one's showing me I can record 2D, down imaging, and side imaging at the same time. And then it's also showing me where it's going to save it. So all you do is hit start recording and let it record. The next one over is your sun and moon chart. Pretty basic info. It's got the sunrise, sunset, which stage the moon's at. It also gives you the dates of the full moon, the quarter moons, the new moon for that month. The next one is files. This is where if you have a card and you have your old info saved, like your GPX file from your Onyx with all your waypoints, your routes, and things like that, you can put that card in here. You can go to import, hit nav data, and if you have those files on your card, that GPX file, it'll take that and import all of your info onto your unit. If you need to back this unit up, you just go to export, hit nav data, and it's going to put it from your unit onto your card. You can also go in here and export your menu settings. So if you have multiple units, you can just save it and then use those settings and import the settings on all the devices. The top middle option is called alarms. If you click on your alarms, you can go in there, and one of them that I like to use, especially when you have a bunch of graphs and your live wells running and a bunch of accessories, is your voltage alarm. And you can set that to whatever you want. You can either turn the dial to change it, you can just tap it or slide it, but you can have it give you an alarm for a certain voltage. By default, it's set at 10.5 volts. There are a bunch of different alarms. There's drift limit alarms, speed over ground alarms, 360 retract warning. You can set the miles per hour when it'll give you a warning that it's still down. That's for a transom mounted 360. And then there's a history of all your alarms that you can check and go through. There's also a mute button, so if you have some set up and you want to just mute everything, you just click the mute and it shuts all the alarms off. And the last one we look at here on this main home screen is the top left corner, your settings button. Now there's a bunch of content in this one. It starts with your sonar source, water type. Once you set these, it keeps them. It has your 2D chirp, your down imaging chirp settings, your side imaging settings, your 360 imaging, And most of these are filters, frequencies, things like that. The next option down from that is your chart option. And there you can pick your Humminbird, Navionics, different cards that you put in there. There's also a water level offset that you can set. The next one down is a navigation, and those are off-course alarms, arrival mode, arrival radius. The next one down is general. Now new this year is on the Solix is you can go to angler mode or custom mode. Angler mode has less settings. It's easier to just get going, get out and start fishing. If you really want to tweak and get things fine-tuned, you want to set it to custom because it's going to give you a whole bunch of different options. You have a backlight. You can turn on your night mode here. You can actually turn your touch screen off if you don't want those features. If you're running around rough water, you don't want to accidentally touch something and stop your mapping or set a cursor, you can turn that off. You can turn the sounds off when you touch the key. It has language, date, time. So a whole bunch of settings under general. The next one down is my vessel. There you can set up your boat icon, engine, gas tanks, a whole bunch of different settings that just pertain to your boat. The next one down is your network. This you're going to use, especially if you have multiple graphs. I have two Solix 15s up front. I have the one here. They're all hooked up to an Ethernet switch. They all see each other. They talk to each other. If I set a waypoint on one, it shows up on the other two. Everything's shared. Map card gets shared. On the front one, if I want to watch the structure scan or the mega info from the back transducer, I can pull up on that screen. So this is all of your network settings. Once you configure your network, keep your units in the same spot every time, and when you get to the lake the next time, you should be able to just hook your units up, turn everything on, and everything's going to work. You don't need to be in here tweaking things, changing things, setting up your network. Once it's done, it should stay that way. You can pick data sources so you can tell which units to use what transducer or GPS if you have a high speed sensor. So all of your network settings are under there. The next one down is your simulation. I'm not going to turn that back on, but if you want to do your simulation, you can do that. And then there's a restore default. So if you really mess up your settings, there's different options here. And you don't have to restore the entire unit. You can just do your sonar settings, chirp settings, chart settings, radar settings, your navigation data, and target settings. Now, if you're going to take the unit off and sell it and you want to just wipe everything, you can just go down to Restore Factory Defaults and the entire unit will be set up like the day you bought it. One neat feature is having your split screen set up, and let's say you're side imaging and all of a sudden you want to bring your little small side imaging box up to full screen. If you just touch it with 2 fingers, it grabs it and changes it to the entire screen being your side imaging data. To go back, you can just tap the top left corner and now all the other screens came back. So I have my mapping, my down imaging, and my side imaging back on the screen. If I want to go to the mapping, 2 fingers, touch it, the entire screen's your map. Let's say you're running through some stuff wide open, you're watching the map, you want it full screen. Then as soon as you get to your spot, touch the little cursor up in the top left corner, and now you're right back to your 3 screens again. Really nice, easy way when you're running to jump screens and get the info you want without having to go through a bunch of menu settings. So here on my full side imaging screen, I have some little icons on top that are shortcuts. If I want to just click mega, the frequency comes up. I can go from mega to 800 to 455 real fast. Right next to that, you have a clear mode and max mode for your switch fire. I've found that when you're side imaging on softer bottoms, using mega, and if you have darker returns on the outside edge as you get further away from the boat, if you go to max mode, it seems to brighten that up a little bit. If you want to change the color of your palette real quick, just click the button and all of your different screen colors come up. And then you can just quickly click the last button there and it picks which side of the boat you want to scan. You can pick both, left or right, real fast. So just real easy ways to make things so much faster trying to navigate around and get the settings tweaked to how you want them. If you decide to spend the money on a nice unit like this, don't just buy it, install it on your boat, turn it on and leave everything on auto and never touch anything. Don't be scared to go into each screen, each setting page, flip things on, turn them off, look at what they do. And when you're on the water, just keep maxing out what your units can do. These things are high powered. There's no excuses not to be able to find fish, or at least the cover that the fish should be on, and just push them to their potential. I mean, it's crazy how much better these things have gotten the last 3 years, 5 years. I think back 10 years ago, just being excited to see something underneath my boat. And now you're sitting there scanning at 150 feet on each side of the boat. You got your 360 up front showing you fish and cover, where to put your cast precisely. Don't be scared. Use it, push it. Worst case, you can go in there, restore it to factory settings and start over. Nothing's gonna happen to your units by clicking on settings, testing them, tweaking them. Push it. Get it set up how you're going to use it, how it's going to help you. And I guarantee you, having these units like the Solix and the Helix with the Mega, they are absolutely going to put more fish in your boat by showing you more cover, better pictures of the cover, more fish, the weeds, everything. So get these, use them, enjoy your time on the water, and I guarantee you'll be catching more fish if you spend the time to get these set up and use them to their max. This is Casey Ellert with Bass Brawl Outdoors, and I really hope you found some info that'll help you, and good luck out on the water.